Alrighty, team, 2025 is coming up. I am actually so excited. Like, I'm usually excited for the new year, but this one just feels different for some reason. I don't know if it's because I am older and wiser. Okay, maybe not wiser, but certainly older. But there's something about 2025 that I just feel like it's gonna be our year. Let me know if you can feel it too, because I'm just very eager to get into this. As the title suggests, yes, we are going to be doing some kind of like workshopping around goal setting today. So thinking about what is it that we want to accomplish in the year ahead? What do we want to get to the end of next year and be like, heck yeah, I did the thing, right? Some of them are probably going to be goals we may have set for ourselves before. That is totally fine. But by the end of today's session, right, what I am hoping for you is a comprehensive list of the goal ideas or things that you want to work on in 2025. We're going to be doing this process together. So the way that this kind of works is what I call like a how to do review kind of system. So how to, I'm going to tell you what it is we're going to do in that segment. We're then going to actually do it, and then we're going to have a look at what we wrote down. Okay, so if you want to do this with us, if you want to, come through this process and do the goal setting and all of that and kind of get deep into the weeds of it, which I'm again very excited about, then what you're going to need is any kind of journals that you've used over the past 3 months ish, or possibly even the last year if you're doing this on kind of more like a yearly basis. I do my goal setting on a quarterly basis, so mainly just looking at the last 3 months. So I just need this one, but that could be a small fleet of journals depending on what you like to record your plans in. All right, this could also include memory keepers if you have them, because part of this process is looking at those things that kind of will highlight moments stood out to us. What you're also going to need is something to write on. I prefer to use something that I don't mind being messy with, mainly because this can be a messy process. I don't want to be like filtering myself as we go through. I don't want to be trying to write the lettering down all neat and perfect. Like yeah, I still want to be able to read it after the fact. That's kind of important. But because we are going to be running a tight ship here today, right? We are really getting into it, making sure we're making every moment count. I'm probably going to have some messy handwriting. I'm going to put it in my scribble book, right? I also prefer to have this as something separate to my journal, just because then I can, open this up and be writing on it and stuff while I'm looking through these pages. I don't have to keep flipping back and forward, all right? So maybe something separate, but it's up to you. This is your process. What else we need? We will also, of course, need something to write with. It's all good and well to have the notebook, but if you can't write in it, it doesn't really work. I find that I do type faster than I write. So if typing is going to be more preferable for you, like if you feel like you're going to be able to get your thoughts out faster that way, you can totally scrap the pen and paper if you want to. I just prefer it because I find that the flexibility is higher. Like, yeah, you could make a mind map on a computer, but it's usually a little bit trickier. It takes a little bit more work. If I just draw it in the scribble book, it's nice and quick. What we will also need is a comfy spot. All right, we're going to be here for a little while. This is an in-depth process, and I want to make sure that we don't get halfway through and be like, yep, no, I'm out, my back hurts, and I'm done. All right, I don't want that for you. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you have your beverage of choice, anything like that, and we are going to get into it. Okay, so the general process here, big, broad brush strokes. We are going to be, 1, reflecting on the past quarter and year, because looking back is a really great way to plan the way forward. We're then going to have a think about the brainstorming of our goals for next year, thinking about some different kind of techniques we can use for that brainstorming to do a really thorough job. And then we're going to be picking out the ones we actually want to work on, right? Yes, that's right. Make sure that you have a tink, all right? We need to have a bevy. Doesn't matter if it's water, all right? I'm not your manager. I'm not here to judge you for your drink choices. Mine's a Coke Zero and it's 9 a.m. on a Monday. Like, it is what it is. So we're going to scoot this guy to the side for now. We're going to prep our pages so that we can get this done. Now you can see I've got a whole bunch of scribbles in here because this is the scribble book. And the way that we're going to title this first page, I mean, you don't have to use my title, but I'm going to call it the Quarter 4 Reflection. So Quarter 4 reflection. Now, if you are reflecting on the whole year, then you might want to call it like the 2024 reflection or something like that. I'm just going to be kind of sticking in the last 3 months, really. So October, November, December. Yes, December isn't quite over, but we're doing this process a little earlier because December is kind of hectic. Don't know if you've noticed, but it gets kind of busy for most people. We don't want that to, hold us back from entering the new year with these plans kind of already in place. Like, if you're watching this and it's already January, it's cool. you got time. I just really love to lean into the power of a new beginning. So I like to make sure that I do this process a little bit sooner. So, what we're going to be doing though, as part of this looking back phase, because this is what the quarter four reflection really is, the first thing we want to do is just restate your goals and give a status report on where they're up to. Okay. The reason that I do this to start with is that it kind of helps me frame my thinking for the rest of it, especially making me kind of like highlight that I set these goals for myself. Maybe I forgot that they got set. It happens. It happens to the best of us. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back into our journal, all right, wherever it is that you keep your goals, wherever it is you wrote them down, whether it be at the start of the year or the start of the quarter, where did you note them? It's also okay if you didn't note them down. I understand that that happens as well. But we're going to spend about 2 minutes together just thinking about what goals did we set for ourselves for the last period and where are they up to? Like, what is the status report for those goals? Are they ongoing? Like, we haven't quite finished off with them. We still want to do some work on them. Are they finished? Like, we managed to accomplish the goal to the extent that we had hoped for? Or maybe have they been like neglected? Have they been abandoned? Right? When it comes to giving the status report, it's usually like one to a couple of words. It doesn't need to be a long ass sentence that says, like, it was a Tuesday at 8 p.m. and I decided that this goal was no longer worth my time. We just need like 1 or 2 word descriptors. It's all good. But I'm going to give you some time to do this. As I said, this is a how to do review. So I think we're going to use about 2-ish minutes to do this one. And I'm going to chuck up a timer once I find you a timer. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep running my mouth. As we go through, make sure that you're letting us know what it is you are doing in your journal or for your plan. I want to hear about, like, hey, these are the goals that I worked on. This is what my status report kind of is. I know that for me, some of my goals, they did get neglected. It totally happened. We don't necessarily get through everything we set for ourselves. It is the nature of things. But hopefully at least some work happened for some of them, even if it wasn't like a perfect completion or anything like that. So as we go through, let me know, what is it that you had worked on or had planned to work on for this quarter? But otherwise, we're going to give ourselves about 2 minutes to go and find these and write them down, because it might take a little bit of searching. I'm going to give you about 1 more minute to do this part. Make sure that you found them, make sure that you write them down. It's all cool if you can't remember every single one. You can just leave a little bit of space for this section, come back to it as things kind of, get jogged in your memory. It doesn't have to be a perfect process. Also, if you're finding that I'm going too fast, it's only because I value your time and I want to get the most out of this hour or 2 hour process. People on the replay team, you know how long this took. But if you need to, just leave a little bit of space. We can come back to it and fill it in as we go through. It is totally fine if it's not 100% finished. This is just us doing the groundwork. Alrighty, hopefully you got them written down. I didn't because all of my little video timers decided they weren't actually uploaded and I had to go find them. But it's cool. Technical difficulties are a part of life. So in writing those down and thinking about the status that you had for them, if you haven't already shared in the comments, let us know because I want to hear about what you had hoped to work on. It's okay if you didn't get them done. It happens, especially in this last quarter of the year. Everything is so busy and we have this kind of tendency maybe to bite off more than we can chew, and sometimes we can chew it and sometimes we can't, and then sometimes if we do chew it, everything else goes to the tip, and we don't, really want that either, but it is what it is. I know that for me, for my goals for quarter four, one of them was mainly Vlogmas, certainly happening. Hasn't been perfect though, all right? Like at the start of Vlogmas, I got hit with the sickness. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm recovering. I'm on the road. But just because we set these goals for ourselves doesn't mean they always get accomplished. It's totally fine if it didn't. And some of them you might still want to continue with for next year. All right. This is kind of part of the reason that we do this reflection, right? Gets us in that mindset to say, like, okay, this is the stuff that went down in the last quarter or last year. What can I take from this? What can I learn from it? And how can I apply that moving forward? All right. So, like, first one, we have restated our goals. We have given the status report. The next thing that we want to do now, and I always like to kind of start with the positive, is think about any milestones or achievements that you have over this past quarter. Now, they don't necessarily have to be related to your goals. I like to open my mind up to all of the possibilities for the positive things that happened. And oftentimes, we kind of think of these goal milestones or goal achievements like they have to be these big things. They have to be massive. Like, I have to have, completely finished my goal for it to actually feel like a win. There are always going to be tiny, small, little achievements along the way. And it's always good to make sure that we take note of those as well. Okay. This is effectively us building up an evidence log to say, heck yeah, I can actually do things. Does anybody else, like, let me know? Do you get to the end of a day or a week and you're like, what did I even accomplish today? Like, I set out with all these good intentions for the day, and I feel like I get to the end of the day and I've done literally nothing. Not the case, because we notably did something, unless you, like, I don't know, laid on the floor and just stared at the ceiling, which technically is doing something. Like, we did something. So we're trying to make sure that we bring those achievements, those milestones, even if they're small, to the front of their mind, just to give ourselves that evidence log to say, like, yeah, okay, I can do things. Even if they take me a while, I get things done. All right. So in thinking about these achievements, what you can do, what can be very, very helpful, and this is why we got our journals out, is just take a flip back through your daily logs and all of the weekly logs and anything else that you put in here, because there's probably something on these lists that is kind of going to jog your memory to what has been accomplished. Now, one of the things that I like to do, because I'm a big believer in reflection, I do things like my mid-month check-ins and my end-of-month check-ins and stuff like that. So these are a really good place to check for any kind of achievements or any kind of wins. If you have any kind of memory keepers or things like that, that's another really good place to look at it, all right? Because not all of our achievements are going to be things that were specifically related to our goals. They could be things related to other areas of our lives or other projects that we were working on that didn't specifically tie to the things that we set out to say, like, hey, I'm going to achieve XYZ. Okay. So in terms of this one, it is a little bit more in depth than just doing our restating of the goals. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Of course, if you find that 5 minutes just isn't enough, you are more than welcome to pause this live stream and do a thorough job of it. It's just because I find that if I time restrict, if I make it so that I only give myself a smaller amount of time to do something, I'm much more likely to use that time very effectively. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes. What we're writing down here are any of our milestones or achievements over the past quarter or past year, if you're doing that. They don't have to be related to your goals and they don't have to be big, right? Small ones count as well. 5 minutes. Hopefully you got a decent chunk of stuff written down. It's okay if you couldn't think of a lot of them. I mean, I find that oftentimes if I don't look back through my journals and such, I do have a really hard time remembering what my wins were, especially if I haven't written them down in the moment. Like that's a big one as well. So I do tend to try and do that as we go through. Obviously, at this stage, that doesn't help you much, but maybe it's something you want to include in your journal for next year, just so that the next time you do this process, it's a little bit easier for yourself. But let me know, what was something that felt like a win for you, or felt like a milestone, felt like an achievement in the past 3 months, year, whatever it is. It's all good if we have to look a little further afield. I know for mine, it's stuff like the Vlogmas videos are actually coming out. Like, that doesn't feel like a huge win, but in a way it kind of is, because as said, start of Vlogmas did not go as expected. Got the sickness, and having them actually coming out is still a good win for me. We also have things on here that just weren't related to my goals, but they still feel like wins. They felt like accomplishments. They felt like memorable moments that I want to say, like, hey, yeah, you did the thing. Like, one of them wasn't even, it wasn't me. I didn't even do it. It was a cocktail and art night for my birthday. I had no say in that. Vogel and Rachel organized it for me, but it felt so good to just have some creativity time that was outside of my regular kind of stuff. So let me know, what is it that you had down as milestones? And as we look through some of other people's ones, if there's anything related, or if it like jogs your memory for anything, add that to your list as well. So moved my office around. Heck yes, I love moving my office around. Yeah, Vogel's just going, yeah, and fist bumping from the other side of the camera. Thank you, Vogel. Alrighty, what else? We have selling my flat was major. Yeah, convinced that you wouldn't happen. All right. This is the kind of thing that we want to add to our evidence log. All right. Because that's stuff that we told ourselves, like, oh, I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if I can do it. You did the thing. It happened. Good for you. Excellent. So I got asked to join an English Honor Society. That's really exciting. Oh my gosh. I know how like validating that can feel to get those kind of offers and stuff. So that's really awesome. Let's see. I had a big breakthrough in therapy. I love that. Excellent. All right. It's also good to note that sometimes the things that are accomplishments or are milestones or are wins, they aren't necessarily positive things. Like, they aren't like traditionally, quote, quote, traditionally positive, but they can still feel like wins to us. Anything you write down on this list, you don't have to share it with anybody, right? You don't have to tell anybody about that. Like this, left a toxic work environment and found a job you love more, all right? The act of change like that, the act of leaving a workplace, can feel so scary. And in the moment, you're like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I ever going to find like a new job or anything like this? But you found a job you love it even more. That's so great. And I'm so pumped for you. All right. These kind of things, we want to write them on our list. Took a vacation with my kids. Yay. All right. Leisure time, even if it wasn't the goal, even if leisure wasn't the goal, it is still an accomplishment. It is still a win. And we still want to write that down. You knitted a whole blanket. That is a huge accomplishment. I have managed to get like 5 rows of a scarf before, and that's kind of where my knitting journey went to die. So you did a whole blanket. That's very impressive. My blanket was like a blanket for a worm. Totally counts. It just never actually got finished. So I can see that you guys are sharing a lot of these things. Make sure that you're reading through other people's ones, because they are the kind of things that can help like jog your memory for you. Of course, Sarah, heckin' yes, you published a book for the first time in years. I have literally, because like I've got it right here, I have printed off. That's on my reading list for next year. All right. Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw. I am so excited to read it. I really want to get into more mystery kind of books, and that is really exciting. So I played a concert. Oh my gosh, that would have been so scary. Like for me, because I probably can't play an instrument. So for you, probably very exciting, but like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Let's see. You got your plumbing and electrical and a new bathroom done. Yeah, I got electrical ports put into my office in positions that actually make sense. Like that feels like a win. And it was one of those things I put off for such a long time, because I'm like, oh, this is going to be so much work. It's going to take forever. I literally called them the Monday morning to say like, hey, can you come out and look at this? And by 6 p.m. that day, the electrical ports were already in. The kind of things we tell ourselves to like, put off actually taking action on things is ridiculous, but still. Donated 12 bags of clothes as well. That one's a big one. I love decluttering. It's my favorite sport. That's so exciting. Let's see, hit the 85-pound lost mark on your weight loss journey. Dang, and you can squat almost 200 pounds. Oh my gosh. And you'll hit it by the 31st of December. Oh, that's so great. I can lift very small things. I cannot lift that. That is very impressive. So whatever your milestones and achievements were, okay, we're writing those down first. They don't have to be big, huge, heavy-hitting things. See what I did there? 'Cause you can almost squat 200 pounds. Okay, we're gonna put that to the side, but still. So anything that you wrote down here, even if it feels little, even if you think that, like, somebody's gonna look over your shoulder and they're gonna be like, "Oh, oh, you think that's an achievement?" Yeah, yeah, it's an achievement. Heck yeah to writing that down, alright? It does not matter if it is not somebody else's definition of a milestone or an achievement, right? This is your list, okay? We're setting ourselves up for success here. We are thinking about our personal milestones and achievements. Heck yeah, yay team, we are achievers. So, of course, it is really good to think about the wins, think about the achievements, and all of that kind of thing. But I think that it is equally important to also honor the fact that we have had challenges, okay? Now, a proviso here. We are not using this section to get all down on ourselves, being like, oh, yeah, well, you did these things, but you could have done XYZ, but you could have done ABC. No, that is not the purpose here. Okay. The reason that we list down our challenges is mainly so that we can think about how we responded to them. Like, what kind of responses did I take to the challenges that I faced? And were those responses helpful or more of a hindrance when it came to my goal work? Okay. So, when we're thinking about these challenges, whether they were inside of your control or outside of your control, like both of them, we want to consider them, we want to honor them, we want to write them down. We do not want to dwell, we do not want to get all negative Nelly, wah wah, woe is me, I can't do the things, because you literally just showed you can do the things. You have done things, okay? We have the evidence log of doing things right there in front of our faces, okay? So again, this is another one where maybe you want to look through your journal. You can look through, especially like monthly logs, and anytime you had canceled plans, that's a good place to start. So it's like, what is it that led to those plans getting canceled, or possibly what plans up that they came up out of the blue and stuff, and maybe that kind of threw off our best laid plans or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes again. We're considering our challenges. We're noting them down. We're honoring them. We're going to add them to the list, mainly so we can consider how do we approach those challenges and were they helpful. That's what we're going to do in the next section. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes again. Your time starts when the timer Alrighty, team. Hopefully, you've got your challenges listed out. Remember, this is not an excuse for us to just like get down and negative on ourselves or anything, especially if it feels like a lot of your challenges are like personal shortcomings. Big quotation marks here, right? Personal shortcomings. This is not a shortcoming of us or our character or anything like this. This is just something to pay attention to and take note of when we're doing our goal setting moving forward. All right. So, for instance, one of my things that I have here is like disappointment when I made less progress than I had hoped for, right? That is like a personal thing. That is something that I can kind of take control over, whether that means like highlighting more of my smaller milestones and accomplishments so that I do have that evidence log to say, like, hey, you can do hard things. You're doing hard things. What we could also have is like, a lot of work, not a lot of play. That is something that I do have control over. Let me know, what kind of challenges did you guys face? I know some of you have already started sharing. Of course, challenges can be very personal. Do not feel like you have to share something just because other people are. It is okay if you want to keep it to yourself because, like we said, it can be personal. Similar idea with everything in this. I want it to be personal, though. I want it to be the kind of thing that you're doing some soul searching and stuff and really being honest with yourself, even if you don't share it with us. Because if you're honest with yourself here, it means that you can make better progress next time because you have that kind of like basis of understanding about how you are as a goal getter. Okay, so let's see. Biggest challenge is definitely impulse spending and decision paralysis from being overwhelmed by all the tasks that need to be done. That was something that I wrote down, right? Putting off small tasks that feel like mountains, just like that, office kind of project with putting the electrical points in. It's like took literally a day and I put it off for so many months, kind of a thing. So I can understand how that can come around. Alrighty, what else do we have? Let's see. Challenge. I set too many goals myself and I don't get to have as many done items. I know, right? It can kind of be a little bit disheartening, right? When you see like other people, right? It's always when we look at other people, isn't it? Look at other people who are like, oh yeah, crush that milestone, hit that thing, yada, yada, yada. But their circumstances are different to us. Maybe they put all of their time, effort, energy, and attention into that one thing to achieve that shiny milestone or whatnot. Whereas those of us who like to play around with multiple goals, who do like to have a couple different things to work on, we end up usually making a little bit less progress on all of them, but they're all edging in the direction that we want to go. Yeah. So that one, it can be, again, it's a challenge. I'm not trying to discredit your challenges here. Okay. Because I do totally recognize that they are challenges. Let's see. And this is a good one to have. Yes, I feel like I handled my challenges well overall. Excellent. All right. There's the thing. You guys are still here. You showed up today. You're watching this video. You're doing this work with me, or you're sitting here doing your laundry. That's also valid. It's totally fine. Happy to keep you company. But like, just because we face challenges doesn't mean that we have like, let them get us down on the count, kind of a thing. Right? I'm using sports metaphors and I don't know what they mean. Let's hope that was correct, but whatever. So just because we have these challenges does not mean that we can't make progress, as noted by the fact that we listed out the things that we have been able to do. Right? And this is why I always like to start with the milestones thing first. All right. This gives us that kind of basis to say, like, you are doing hard things. You have done hard things. You are hitting milestones and making achievements, even though you had challenges, right? And yes, maybe these challenges held us back from doing more of this or hitting more of these achievements and milestones and such. But as said, the reasons that we look at this, why we look at challenges, why we acknowledge the fact that they happened, right? We want to honor the fact that we went through some stuff, right? We had some things happen, but what can we learn from this? What can we kind of take away from this? And the first thing here is thinking about, well, how did I respond to my challenges? What did I do in response to increased sickness? What did I do in response to that disappointing feeling when I hadn't made as much progress as I had hoped for? Right? Of course, your challenges are going to be your own. Some of them are very outside of your control. I know somebody listed down a hurricane. I'm like, yeah, that's not something you can really control. But how did we respond to those? More so in the respect of like, how did I respond to them in a way that either helped or hindered my goals? Okay. Notably, I've gotten to the end of this page, so I'm gonna open this guy up. All right. Yay for the scribble book. We're gonna write out responses to challenges and think about how you responded without judgment. Okay. What we're then going to do once we've gotten them listed down is think about, like, was this kind of like net positive or net negative in terms of getting more done for my goals? But just listing them down, acknowledging the fact that that was the response we took. We're not using this as a time to judge ourselves. Okay, that's not the point. Nobody is going to get more done because they beat themselves up. Okay, maybe some people, but like, no, I don't subscribe to that. Instead, what we're just doing is recognizing the fact that this was the challenge I had. And this was the response I took. You do not need to write down a response to every single challenge because maybe some of the responses aren't really relevant, or maybe some of them are kind of like covering multiple areas. So, for instance, maiming my finger and increased sickness, my response was, I don't care if you're sick, you've got work to do, let's keep going. Was it their best response? Doesn't matter because we're not judging our responses right now. We're just writing them down. Okay. So, thinking about those challenges, thinking about the things that you kind of, faced in the past quarter or the past year, how did you respond? Once they're written down, then we can consider whether that was a net positive or maybe a net negative challenge. Okay. I'm going to give you 5 minutes again for this one. Alrighty, hopefully you have those challenges and the responses written down now. I saw some of you are sharing yours, which I very much appreciate. I love this one because, yeah, fair, like challenge, cricket tech issues. Response, it's a future me problem. It's cool if some of them were just putting things off. Remember, as we're going through and writing these down, we're not trying to pass judgment on ourselves. It's cool if we decided that, like, I don't have enough spoons for that right now. Future me with their spoons, they're going to deal with it or like whatever, okay? So, as said, you do not need to have a response for every single challenge. Some of them are going to be the same, and not all of them are going to be like 100% positive or 100% negative, okay? Like, for instance, Amanda said, like, I got out of bed most days, pushed through the pain and depression, all right? And on some days, that is definitely exactly what you needed to do, and heck to the yes, okay? Can be very easy to let these things just like hold us back and stuff like that. Whereas on the days that I was feeling well as sick and pushed myself to get out of bed and go and do the thing anyway, maybe that wasn't the best use of my time. Maybe I needed to actually take some rest. So even though powering through for me can sometimes be positive, okay? Sometimes I'm letting things hold me back that I just don't need to let them hold me back. And sometimes I'm genuinely sick and I really should stay in bed, and I probably will get better much faster if I do that for myself. But we're writing these down, we're not judging them, okay? It's okay if some of your, or even all of your responses feel like, oh, well, I don't feel very good about that, okay? Because it means that it's an indicator, like maybe I want to set a goal in that area for next year, or maybe I want to do more of that in next year if it's something that's positive, okay? So let's say, had a car fire, the car was stolen off the interstate due to the police negligence. Oh my gosh. Yep. Response, documenting everything and not relenting until a resolution was reached. Heck to the yes. Oh gosh, that would have been so, so challenging. That sounds like a huge challenge. I cannot even imagine, like, the working pieces on that, the working pieces. But yeah, like some of the challenges, as said, even if they are outside of our control, we still have some, skin in the game. We can do something, even if it's not necessarily like an immediate solution or a perfect solution. How we respond to them still kind of gives us an indication of the kind of ways that we respond to challenges in general. So head in the sand kind of a thing, right? Like sometimes when we face a challenge, we're just like, nope, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. Is that the way that you want to respond to that kind of challenge in future? It's okay if your answer is yes. It is okay if your answer is no. We're not here to judge about our responses and which ones we want to lean into more. Because sometimes head in the sand is the perfect response, but sometimes it just makes a problem worse. Okay? So what else do we have? Let's see. Challenge. Scrolled Instagram for hours on end. Respond, install app lock. Excellent. All right. Whereas for me, I just allowed myself to keep scrolling. And that is probably a response that I don't want to lean into more next time. Your dog keeps jumping at the bell. I apologize. I wanted some kind of like somewhat gentle acknowledgement that we were at the end of a section without me just being like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm so glad you're back. And then everybody being like, oh great, jump scare from Jess. That's not what I wanted for my morning or afternoon or whenever you guys are watching this. So going through here, like thinking about these responses to challenges, they don't have to be fully positive, fully negative, but this can be a very good basis for some of the goals that we set ourselves for next year. For instance, one of the things that I've noticed down is allowed work to set my priorities. Right? I love my job. I very much enjoy working. I work for myself, if you guys don't already know this. And that means that I set my own schedule. And oftentimes that means that schedule goes until 10 p.m. on every day of the week. I don't dislike it, but I would like to do other things with my time. So maybe next year, one of the goals should be around that kind of like work boundaries and carving out more time for myself so that I don't get sick and then just power through because the work priorities have been set by work and all of that kind of thing. Right? Yeah, you had to put headphones on to hear me over the cat. Wow, I've got some fierce competition here, but now as you've got your responses down, we can look through those. We can think about which ones are going to be like ones we want to do more, want to do less of. And what I like to call this section is just like lessons learned. Okay, they don't necessarily have to specifically be about the ones that we just listed down. They could be about things in general, effectively looking back through the stuff that we've written down. What have we learned about ourselves as goal getters? So that could be about like how we respond to things, which responses we want to do more or less. It could be about the kind of challenges. How many of those were like specifically within our control or maybe came from actions that we took or didn't take. Like maybe that's something that we learned about ourselves. So, for instance, one of my challenges is like, disappointment when I make less progress than I hoped for. Maybe I'm not doing a good enough job, for given the fact that this challenge cropped up. Maybe I'm not doing a good enough job of actually highlighting when I make an achievement or a step towards where I want to go. Maybe I'm relying too much on those kind of like big milestone, traditionally achievey kind of moments, kind of a thing. And that's not to say that like I'm doing anything quote wrong. It's more so, hey, this is how you are as a goal getter. This is something that is going to be valuable or important for your process. So let's lean into that. Let's acknowledge the fact that it's something you struggle with and make accommodations for it. All right. We're all individuals, we're all unique. And some of us are going to need to really highlight those very granular milestones and achievements, whereas other people are going to find that the bigger ones are totally fine. It gives them something to strive for, and they feel fine just chuffing towards that. Okay. So, thinking about these sections, what have we learnt about ourselves? What have we learned about ourselves as goal getters, goal setters, anything like that? What has helped? What has hindered? What have you found, brings more joy into your life and makes the process enjoyable to do and that you actually get stuff done versus what's the stuff that's maybe holding us back? This kind of response isn't actually taking us where we want to go. Right? Going to give you 5 minutes for this one as well. Make sure that you share your learnings as we go through because they can be so super helpful for other people. I love this collaborative process, all right? Because it gives us an opportunity to learn from others. Like I'm sitting here running my mouth. Sure, that's all good. Starting your timer, but I'm still going to talk. Ha ha ha. So don't let me distract you, but you can put me on mute. But like just because I'm sitting here running my mouth telling you about the ways that I have done my challenges or milestones or anything like that, I am a singular person. I am but one person in this nice large community that we have here. So give yourself the opportunity to learn from other people. Give other people the opportunity to learn from you as we go through. All right. Like, what kind of learnings did you have? Maybe that will resonate with somebody else and they can apply it to their system too. Yeah. Another new journal isn't going to fix my problems. I love that. I should write that down. Anywho, I'll shut up now so you guys can do your work. Alrighty, hopefully you've got some good learnings down, and hopefully you've had a look through some of the ones that people were sending through in the comments. As said, it's just a really great opportunity to learn from other people, because sometimes, especially if this is your first rodeo kind of thing, if it is, oh my gosh, hi, welcome. But if this is your first time doing this, or even if it's your third, sometimes this kind of process can be really challenging. Like, we don't necessarily know what we're supposed to get out of it. And that's probably because you're not supposed to do any one thing here, right? This is your process. It's going to be unique. It's going to be individualized to you and your challenges and your milestones and your learnings and all of that kind of thing. But hearing what other people have to share about theirs is a very good starting point for generating our own thoughts. Even if it's not necessarily perfectly aligned with our circumstances, it can help us kind of think about ours a little bit more, right? So all or nothing is not real, 100%, all right? Things do not have to be 100% done to still have been like, made progress on or feel like an accomplishment or anything like that. That's a really good one. Take time to rest. I have to continue to teach myself this lesson on a daily basis. Alrighty, let's see. I learned that while I need breaks and self care, everything in moderation. There is a time for work and a time for play, and I need both in balance. That's a very good point. I find that because I oftentimes lean so heavily into the work side, I am constantly telling myself, hey, you need a break, you need rest, you need all of this kind of thing. But maybe if you kind of, your pendulum swings the other way a little bit, then it's also thinking about like, yeah, I also need to have time to just get stuff done mode also. Let's see. I am very motivated by a list or structure and routine. Yeah, but there are some things that I am so avoidant of that even when they're on the list or in a routine, I don't do them, right? And this is a really good opportunity to learn things about ourselves, right? If there are some things that work really well in a particular style or structure and there are other ones that don't, this is a really great opportunity for experimentation, which is very exciting, right? Finding ways that are going to work for us and that kind of stuff, because not everything, not every one system or structure or whatnot is going to be perfect for every single element in our lives, right? Like if we think about planning in general, I really love to do a kind of mind map on paper because it's just a lot easier, but I love to type a list on a computer, all right? Different systems for different kind of stuff. Both of them work just in their own kind of like lane, if that makes sense. Celebrating small wins. This one was a really big one for me as well. Like, to make sure that we're paying attention to the fact that like you have done hard things and you can do hard things and you're making that progress. Make sure that you write it down. Make sure that you highlight it. Put a little exclamation mark next to it in your planner. Highlight it with a mild liner. Smear all the ink everywhere. At least you'll remember it. Like, okay, don't smear your ink everywhere. That's really upsetting. But those kind of things can be very, very important to making sure that we are acknowledging the fact that we can do stuff. Yeah. Righty. Deleting apps and accounts that you don't value, like Facebook, Instagram, and the like. Yeah. Get rid of them so that they don't suck up your time. It's a great idea. I should probably do the same thing. Sadly, my job literally is social media, so it becomes slightly more difficult, but I could delete them from my app when I'm not using them, like my phone rather. Like I could delete those from my phone, make it so maybe I have an app-free phone. I can only access those when I'm at my computer doing work or something like that. Like there are ways to do these things. Let's see. I'm learning that sometimes I need to book myself a little time to just do me, even if it's just 5 minutes. Yeah, put it on the calendar. It's more likely to happen, right? That's a good one to learn as well. So as we've gone through, hopefully we've been taking note of other things that other people are saying. Like, don't give my energy away to people who don't deserve it. Yeah, all right? These kind of learnings that we've had about ourselves as goal getters, about our process, whether they are specifically goal related or otherwise, they can also be a really great basis for your goals. Okay. And this is why we do this reflection process to start before we get in and just start thinking about like, oh, these are all of the things that I want to do next year, which admittedly is part of the purpose of this entire workshop. Making sure that we set the groundwork by looking back and considering all of those things first just means that when we go forward, we have kind of more of a basis, like we can be more intentional about it. All right. So I'm going to give you a 5-minute break here to just sit and think about what you've done. If you actually want to do something with that time, then you can start thinking about maybe things that you want to try or things that you want to change next year. I'm not going to make you write them down, but if you want something specific to do, then you can do that. But we've done a lot of good work here so far. We're not done though. All right. Don't go anywhere, except for the fact that like, it's been an hour. So make sure that you stretch and have a drink and all of those kind of things, tiny ding, ding. I've thankfully been having a cheeky bevy throughout, making sure that I'm staying hydrated. Yes, I count Coke Zero as hydration. You are not my mother. Please don't tell me off. She's downstairs. She can probably hear me. She'll probably tell me off. But as said, this reflection process, it gives us that kind of basis so that then when we go to the next stage, which is more about thinking ahead, thinking to the future, we have this understanding about ourselves to kind of put in the back, right? Just there as a reminder, like, hey, yeah, remember when you wrote down that focusing on 10 goals in 3 months was a bad idea? Maybe when you actually select your goals, you want to prune that back. Or, hey, remember when we said that focusing on one goal led to you being really bloody bored and you didn't get anything done because everything felt like not novel and exciting? Maybe you want to have 3 separate goals that you can change up between or something like that, you know? So these kind of learnings and such, they can be either the basis of a goal or they can kind of give us information about how we might want to select our goals or anything like that. Yeah, that's right. You are not my mother. You're not my manager, right? Just like I'm not yours, right? If you want to hydrate with a mojito at 9 a.m. on a Monday, I'm not going to judge you. It's cool. I'm not going to be drinking a mojito right now, mainly because I'm out of rum, but still. So, in thinking about our next one, all right, thinking about our next section and what it is we need to do in this part, this is kind of where we start to, it's always the most exciting part, I swear, just brainstorm and think about like, what is it that we want to do next year, right? That's what we're going to that's what we're going to be focusing on. I'm just going through. It's like, hi, oh no, hi from a cat. For anybody who was here on the live, you got to see the cat's messages. For everybody who's here on the replay, apologies. The cat messages are gone now. But in this next section, I'm going to flip over because I like to do this one in 2 main parts. You're still on break. It's okay. We're not timing you right now. Okay. We're not timing you right now. This is still break time. We're just chilling. So, brainstorming for 2025. I'm going to title this up with 2025. Oh, exciting. Goal ideas. Okay. And it is very important that we have noted that these are ideas, right? Just because we're going to write something down on this list does not mean it is actually what we end up working on. And that it gives us so much freedom, all right? So in this section, we're really thinking about anything and everything that we might want to do next year. We are not necessarily saying, oh, it's written down in the scribble book. It means it's 100% officially happening now, and I'm going to have to spend all of my time, effort, and energy looking at it. Okay, that's not what we're doing here. This is just an opportunity to kind of think about anything and everything that we could work on. Okay, this is the zone of possibility, not locked in. This is actually what we're going to be working on. Okay, when I do my goal ideas and thinking about like the stuff that I might want to accomplish, might want to achieve, I always like to break it down into 2 separate halves. I'm going to get you an example so that you can kind of see how this is going to look as we go through. By getting out my goal planner, which is effectively just another notebook that I use for goal setting and such. So the 2 sections that I like to keep when I do this are the mind map and the brainstorm. So the mind map is just saying like, here's the year, or whatever year number or title or whatever you want to give us. And then branching out into the different areas of life, what could I possibly want to do here? Like I do it by life area because I find that it helps me be a little bit more thorough. You do not have to do it by life area. This is your mind map, right? Your process. I'm not your manager. But I find that oftentimes one idea for a goal will lead to another. That kind of goal setting is very nicely captured in this kind of mind map. But there are also sometimes things that just come to the front of our mind as one-offs and we're just like, oh my God, I want to do that. And it's not necessarily specifically related to anything on here. That's why I also like to keep a list. Okay, so by having these 2 halves of the same page, it gives us different ways to capture the same kind of information. All of these are just related to goal ideas, things that I might want to work on. In particular, these were things that I might want to work on in 2024. We're not going to go through and see how many of them actually got done because that's not the point, right? This is the space for ideas. We are not committing to any one thing here, or 2 things, or 3 things, or however many things you want to commit to. But what I'm going to do for my one, we're going to have my goals list over here. So goal ideas, goal idea list, goal ideas over here. We can put those down as just like a bulleted list. And then on this side, this is where I'm going to have the mind mapping kind of section. So we'll write out 2025, put it into a box, and give it a little drop shadow because why not? We like it when things look a little bit cute. Do you need to do a drop shadow? No. Do you need to put it in a box? No. But I do like the center to stand out some way so I know where everything is kind of exploding out of, if that kind of makes sense. See, another interruption. I seem to have a ghost that just knocked an ornament off my tree. Get the ghost involved. They obviously have goals to set for next year, little ghost goals. So, in terms of this brainstorming, I, again, like to time restrict this process. I like to make sure that I kind of give myself barriers on when I'm going to be doing this, mainly because otherwise I will sit here and I will stare at this page for like an hour and a half and suck up all of my potential goal setting time just looking at this one because it is exciting, but it can also feel like, oh God, I have to get every single thought out onto this page. The nice part about doing it on this full spread is that I am not restricted in how much space I use here. Like I can go through and list out all of these goals and then start another column if I want to. You also don't have to do it all at one time. Like we're going to sit here and we're going to give ourselves maybe like 5-10 minutes to do this. I think 10 because I like the thoroughness of the process. But you can always come back to this when we get into the next sections. Like as we go through and start to think about other ways to brainstorm, because this is just our initial brainstorm, there are other things that might want to be added to this list and you can go back and add them in after the fact. Okay. Similar to when we did our goals worked on and such. If you left yourself a little bit of space, maybe as you went through the other sections, you're like, oh wait, I worked on that thing as well. And you want to note that down and say, heck yeah, I did a thing. Right. So as said, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes for this one. We're going to split it into 2 halves so that we can come back in the middle and kind of just chat through the process, see where we're up to. So 5 minutes and then a little break and then another 5 minutes, okay? Try and think about like different life areas if you want to. What kind of things do you maybe want to put down as goals from that? Thinking about the stuff that we've already done. What kind of goals could you possibly add to your goal ideas list? Okay, you're not committing to them. It's okay if they feel a little bit silly or maybe huge. That's totally fine. Either way is good. Just because you write it down does not mean that it's actually what's going to happen. Okay, we're not deciding on them just yet. But 5 minutes. Okay, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Alrighty, hopefully you've got some stuff down on your list. It's all good. I'm gonna give you some more time because I know that this one does take a little bit of, time, effort, energy type of a thing. We did have a question that was about the difference between a goal and an intention. Now, some people use these interchangeably because I know that for some people the term goal doesn't resonate, and it's cool. I'm very much a big believer in finding terminology that does work for you and works with you. For instance, for a long time, I felt that like exercise was a word that I just did not resonate with. It was something I knew I needed to do, but I couldn't get myself behind that word, mainly because in my mind, I'd built up exercise to be like, oh, it has to be like, hot, sweaty, gym bra, really intense, gonna run a mile in 3 seconds. Okay, maybe not that, but you get the idea, right? So, because I had built it up in my head to mean this one thing, even though exercise didn't have to mean that, I decided to change my wording to movement, all right? So, if the word goal, like I know that we're like an hour and 12 minutes into this at this point, but if the word goal didn't work for you, it's cool. Change it up for something else. We've got a couple people in the chat saying things like a goal is something that you want to reach, something you work towards, or an intention is something you want to do but you don't arrive at. Like, I'm not going to be the grammar and spelling and word use police, mainly because I'm not as well read as I could be. I'm also not a dictionary. So I find that even if the term doesn't necessarily mean exactly what the dictionary says, if it's the word that works for you, use that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a mile in 3 seconds. Do I even know how big a mile is? No, but yeah, getting there in 3 seconds does seem a little bit unreasonable for human legs. But anyway, so in terms of where we're at right now, okay, so maybe your goal ideas is looking a little bit sparse like mine. It's cool. You do not just have to spend 5 minutes on this. We're going to spend another 5 minutes to get to our 10 minutes. You can continue writing while I'm running my mouth, okay? It's just that my 10-minute timer wouldn't upload to StreamYard because the file was too big. But don't tell anybody, it's fine. I'll figure it out for next time. So, in terms of your goal ideas, remember these are just ideas. You don't actually have to work on them. Some of them might seem contradictory to each other. So, for instance, like, oh, I want to like increase my work output, but I want to work less. There are ways to do this. Okay, we can do the thing. We have done hard things. We have the evidence. We have done hard things. Okay, so just because you're writing them down doesn't necessarily mean that you end up selecting them for your goal for next year. There might be other things that come out through this process that are just like more pressing, more important, and that is cool. You also don't have to do a complete job of this in the 10 minutes that we have for this, okay? You can come back to this and add to it. You can pause the video, stop Jess running her mouth, and then actually fill it in properly if you want to. Give yourself a full half hour or whatnot. But I do encourage you, when you're doing this process, try to time restrict it. Mainly because you are going to be more intentional with the time that you give yourself. It just, makes you kind of hone in and focus on the task at hand. And two, it means that you can then get on to other parts of your goal setting. All right. So feel free to be flexible with this. Feel free to come back and add to it as we go through. It does not have to be done all at once. I'm going to give you another 5 minutes as we go through. If there are any goals that kind of come up through this process, you're like, oh, I'm just excited to work on that. Like, I want that to be my thing for next year. Make sure to share them in the chat. Just because somebody else has a goal for something does not mean that we have to add it into our own potential ideas lineup, but it can help you jog your thoughts, think about other areas of your life that maybe you want to set goals in, ones that you haven't possibly already considered. Okay, so another 5 minutes. We're going to flesh this one out and then we're going to get on to the next stage of brainstorming. Alrighty. Hopefully you have a good looking list of things, a little bit more full than before. It's all good if it's not finished, all right? Like we said, 10 minutes may not be enough time. Totally fair, totally fine. It's just that there are other parts of this process, and I want to make sure that we get through all of them together. So feel free to come back and add more stuff to your list as we go through, or as you think of it, or even after we do this kind of full process, okay? So having a look at some of the things that you guys talked about, I want to do a no spend for a month and a quarter. Oh gosh, yeah, that would be a no spend month per quarter. Wow. Okay. Yes, that would be kind of exciting. One of the things that I noted down after reading yours was like, yeah, actually, I do kind of want to decrease my spending in set key areas, right? I'm not very good with financial goals and goal setting. I seem to have some kind of block with that, and that's something that I'd like to be doing more of next year. Let's see, start recording and releasing music again. That is exciting. Heck yeah. Oh, the world wants to hear it. All right. So getting that out there sounds like a good time. Let's see. So if you have anything that you're excited about, make sure to share it as we go through and stuff. Anything that you, even if it feels like too big, even if it feels like, oh gosh, I can't possibly do that in the first quarter of next year, you don't have to get it 100% done in the first quarter. We can still just make progress on it, and that's okay too. Like some of the things that I have in here, I know that they are not going to get done in the first 3 months. Even though I like to set my goals in 3 month chunks or quarterly goals, I know that there are going to be some things that, like, maybe I don't get it finished, but I start making steps in that direction. For instance, one of the things that I have here is like taking an overseas holiday with Vogel. It's been a second since we went away on a trip like that together. So I don't plan on doing it before the end of March, but maybe I can lay the groundwork, like, figure out like where do we want to go? What would be kind of like a priority? Like when in the year would be most suitable? I don't have to do the whole thing, but I can start making steps in that direction. So let's say we want to start roller skating. Heck yes. Oh my gosh, it has been such a long time since I did roller skating. It was so much fun. I hope that that one is something that you work on because that's awesome. Find a job. Yes, that is a very admirable goal. Very fair. Let's see, create a new webtoon series. Oh, that's awesome. I have like mad respect for people who do those kind of things, like the amount of drawing and then the narrative making and all of that kind of thing. Love consuming them. Love it. Let's see. I want to not smoke cigarettes for the whole year. Excellent. And this kind of goal, right? Because this one's a great goal. I love this. Even if you get to like, I don't know, day 17 and we quote slip, it's cool. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect to still make a huge difference to yourself, right? Like you can still, slip on day 17 and break that habit, go back to, have a smoke or whatnot. You still have a decent chunk of the year left to continue with building that. All right. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, but it is still something that is like, that's the goal. So that whole idea of like shoot for the moon, if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Like just because we do things in a way that isn't perfect doesn't mean we're not making, strides in the right direction, kind of a thing. Alrighty, so let's see. Want to write a political zine and distribute to your neighbors. Excellent. All right. I think that zines are so cool. I love the idea of them. I made one like many, many moons ago. Mine was just about like what was it? Like cognitive biases or something like that. It was just more like a little fun project that Vogel and I went and did at the library. It was really cool though. So it's awesome that you're thinking about like making ones that you could distribute in your neighborhood. That's really, really cool. Let's see. Your nephew, who's 6 years old, says practice makes progress. Heck to the yes, it does, right? Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it's not going in the direction we want it to go. And that is a really good thing to kind of like, I don't know, internalize, I suppose. Oftentimes, I know for a lot of us, we do have perfectionistic tendencies, and we find like, oh God, I made a stuff up, and like, this part wasn't right or whatever. We are our own biggest critics often of times. Just because something isn't perfect doesn't mean that it is not worthy of like the merit that it has. All right. So alrighty, let's see. Really wish to get a spot on a course that's becoming a peer worker. Nice. That'd be really cool too. Like move to a new town, want to connect with new people in the area and be more social. That's a good one as well. I put down in particular, mine was like strengthening existing friendships. I mean, I haven't moved, so that makes sense. I was thinking about putting down like new social connections as well. And I'm like, maybe we just focus on deepening the ones we already have. But in moving to a new town, totally makes sense that you would want to like make connections in your area and stuff. And that can also be really exciting. Just because we're thinking about goal setting here, like, goal can be really a big scary word for some people. These things don't have to be huge, right? These do not have to be really, really big things. One of my goals for next year is a solo date with my niece. Like, she's what, just turned 1 and we haven't had solo time together. I'm like, you know what? I want to have a solo date with my niece. I think that would be fun. But anywho, so this brainstorming process, the mind mapping and then just listing, is a really great way to get all of our initial ideas out onto paper. And the reason that I start with our 2025 section doing this is because often if we don't get these ideas out of our head and onto the paper where they're safely collected, they just kick around in our head on repeat. So we try and do other sections in our goal setting process, and it's just like, oh yeah, but what about this? Oh yeah, but what about this? Oh yeah, but what about this? I'm like, okay, we're going to take we're going to write it down. It is safely saved somewhere. So now we can think about other ideas, right? Flipping on over, whoopah, the next part. We are still brainstorming. We're still thinking about possible goal ideas for next year. And this is where we want to consider any kind of passion points we have. So I'm going to write down up here, passion points. So this is considering things that we enjoy, that we like, they spark joy. They're things that we want to do more of or we value having in our life in any way, shape, or form. And we want to consider how we can bring more of those into our life in future. Okay. So thinking about this is the kind of stuff of like, what gets you fired up? What gets you excited? What, like, if there's a day that this thing is happening, you're going to shoot out of bed. There's not going to be hitting any alarm. I didn't even need an alarm. I was so excited. I was getting up to do this thing, kind of a thing. What kind of things in your life are those things for you? What are the things that you just get really excited and feel a lot of enjoyment and joy from? Those are the kind of things we're going to add onto this list, because maybe next year one of your goals is going to be around bringing more of those joyful moments into your life. Maybe it is increasing the amount of time you spend with your friends or family. Maybe it is taking more little day trips in your area. Maybe it is more creating art or music or whatever else. Like, whatever it is that gets you excited, that you love to do, that is what we're going to put on this list. Okay. This one is probably going to be a bit of a shorter list. So we're going to give ourselves, I'm going to say, 2 minutes to work on it. Thankfully, you still have the time where I'm running my mouth while I give you the instructions again. Okay. So this is the passion points. These are the things we love, the things that we enjoy, the things that we want more of in our life. Those kind of things are the stuff we're going to add onto this list. I'm going to give you 2 minutes because time restricting means you're going to be more focused on the task at hand. That time starts as soon as you see the timer. Oof, 2 minutes feels so much shorter than 5. I mean, I know math-wise it definitely is, but it's just actually noticing like, wow, that is actually not as much time. But You still have the time to write this. You can pause this video. You can do whatever you want, all right? We want to make sure that it is a thorough process, but we're not spending every waking hour doing this thing. So what kind of things do you get excited about? What kind of things like light you up? They're your passion points and all of that kind of thing. You want to do a favorite things day. I love a favorite things day. Oh my gosh. If you don't know what a favorite things day is, just a day where you try and cram in as many of your favorite things as possible. I try and do one for my birthday every year. It's always a good time because funnily enough, it's all full of my favorite things. So read more about the topics that you're interested in. That's a great one. We love that. Righty, taking more photos. Heck yes. And then also having photos organized in a way that means I can find them again. That one's a passion point of mine. I love some good digital organization. I should write that on my list, right? As said, you can keep writing as we're talking. You do not have to make this like definitively, this is my only things I'm allowed to enjoy. Just leave yourself a little bit of space. You can come back to it and write some more things down if you want to. I want to prioritize reading books I think I love more than books I'm unsure about. Books, my bad. But yeah, I would agree with that. I have a tendency to add almost anything and everything that I find even mildly interesting to my TBR. And then it's like, cool. Now all of the ones that I genuinely was excited about are kind of like diluted and lost in the shuffle. But baking and trying new recipes, heck yes, this is something that I added to mine somewhere in there. Eating good food, yeah, that's one that I get excited about. And I want to do more of that next year. Not just eating because I need to eat, but eating for the enjoyment of eating as well. So travel and adventures, heck yes, I love traveling and I love adventures. So these kind of things, like for some people, travel and adventures, heck to the nah. But that's the thing. This is your list. So if you enjoy that, make sure that you chuck it down. Your cat stole your chair. That's an interesting thing to be enjoying. No, I'm kidding. I hope that your cat gives your chair back soon. But let's see, sewing, yep, that would be a good one as well. So any of those kind of like fun hobbies that you've been neglecting or anything like that, let's add those to the list. Anything that you have that it brings joy or it brings enjoyment into your life. Like one of the things that I wrote down was clean sheets. Like clean sheets is not necessarily what people think of when they think like, what is your passion? What is the thing that fires you up? And I'm like, you know what? I just enjoy it when my bed is made and my sheets are clean. And I am terrible at remembering to do that on a regular basis, so I don't get to enjoy it as much as I should. But this is the kind of thing, like, even though that is a small thing and maybe a thing that feels a little bit odd to add to a list of passion points, I love a freshly made bed and you get into it and you feel so cozy and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best sleep of my life. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. That's another thing, completely unrelated. Yeah, feeling well rested was also on my list. But yes, definitely putting clean sheets on that list. Absolutely love it, especially after an everything shower. Oh yes, there's just like the top level of luxury. All right, so chuck that on the list as well. So any of those things that bring joy, they don't have to feel like huge things, but they can just be things that make you feel good. They're things that you want to bring more of into your life, like freshly washed hair, done your everything shower, got your toesies done, got your nails done, whatever else. Okay, this is your list. Whatever brings that enjoyment into your life. Those are the kind of things we want to add to this list because they could be a really good starting point for potential goals. Okay, you may also find at this stage that some of the things you've added to these passion points are stuff that you've got on here. That's good. This is what we want to see, all right? It is okay to have duplicates because it just encourages us to say like, that's probably something I want to work on. That's probably something I want more of in my life. It's probably something I want to set a goal around. So the next thing to think about, just like we had when we did our reflection, when we think about our milestones and achievements, we think about those things that we've done, the stuff that's actually like happening, and we can be like, yeah, I did the thing. The next part is the not so fun. On here, we're not so much thinking about challenges per se, but what I'm going to call pain points. Now, they don't have to be like genuine physical pain. They, again, don't have to be big. They could be small things. But we're thinking about what's the stuff that makes you uncomfy? What's the stuff that, like, maybe it does feel physically painful? Like, maybe you have physical pain right now. We can note that on the list. What does it, what's you've got that maybe feels like uncomfortable mentally, or something that just bothers you, something that's like, been niggling at the back of your task list, being like, oh, I really should do that. I really should do that. I really should do that. Right. Any of those little things that are bringing some not so fun emotions into your life, the stuff that you don't enjoy so much, the stuff that you get sick of doing, the stuff that you're like, oh, great, it's Monday and I have to do that again. Right. Anything like that. These are the kind of things that we want to add into our pain points. Dirty dishes in the sink. Oh my gosh. When Vogel like rinses his bowl and just leaves it in the sink, I'm just like, why are you testing me? Why does the good Lord send me all of the hardest trials? And I'm like, Jessica, that is such a first world problem, but it doesn't matter because this is your list, all right? You're gonna write that down. It is all good if your pain point seems trivial or it seems a little bit silly. Okay, we're writing it down regardless, because pain points and avoiding pain can also be a really good basis for our goals. Okay, trying to move away from that state of pain or annoyance or irritation or anything like that. It's okay if it doesn't feel like a huge thing. It's okay if it doesn't feel like a mountain. It's allowed to be a small thing. Similarly, you are also allowed to write mountains down on here, things that are genuinely like painful, whether that be physically or emotionally or mentally or whatnot. Okay. So these kind of things, these annoyances, bothers, all of that kind of stuff is what we're going to write down next. Again, I'm going to give you a smaller amount of time because we love to time restrict ourselves, make sure that we're focusing on the task at hand. As we go through, if you feel like you have one to share, big or small, anything that is not so personal that you don't want to feel like you have to share something. I don't want you to feel uncomfy by sharing. Yeah, sharing on the internet because Jess told me to. Pain point. All right, don't want that for you. But 2 minutes starting. Alrighty, hopefully you got some of those things written down. If you want to share, feel free to. If it's personal, cool, you don't have to. So like because we got on the train of thought of the house, I was just like, yep, an untidy home, dishes in the sink, crumbs on the floor, clutter in the office, and I was like, okay, we really actually have to think of some things that aren't related to our house. So if you need to go back to, your brainstorm here or something, think about your different life areas and such, that can be a really good way. Um, Frustrations and lack of progress. All right. Some of them are just like, things that are more internal. They're not necessarily external stuff. Imposter syndrome. That is a really big one. 100%. Yeah. because it's not believing in myself. Yeah, that one can be a really big one because when we don't believe in ourselves, it can be really hard to build those kind of like, log of achievements. Like, oh, we discredit anything that we've done previously, saying, like, yeah, that was past me. And now, current me can't do anything. Incorrect. Current you and past you are very closely related in some respects, like maybe being kind of the same person in some kind of, tones of it. So this kind of thing can be really debilitating for getting more stuff done. Let's see, what else? Keeping in touch with my friends. Yeah, I'm really bad at that. Unless they are like my top 3 people or something like that, I don't keep in touch with my friends at all. Not great either. So, food guilt. Yes, that can be a big one. It's like, I kind of go these 2 ways, right? It's either like, YOLO, you're not my manager. I can eat what I want and I'll go and eat a whole bunch of KFC. And then, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that. Everything is awful. You're a terrible person. All of this kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, and like, let's maybe not just deal with the 2 extremes. Maybe somewhere happy and in the middle would be really great for that. So, as you go through thinking about like what are your pain points, have a look at the ones that other people have said. Think about like, does that actually apply to me? Is that something that brings an annoyance in my life in some way? Because some of these things are within our control. Some of them we can set goals around and we can and do things to make it so that those things don't happen so much. Some of them not so much, but maybe we could set goals around how we manage those pain points in our lives. These can just be a very good basis for our goals and goal getting. So the kind of things that we either want to bring more of, move towards, or move away from, do less of, that kind of stuff. I know that a lot of people have noted like chronic illness. Yeah, that's a big one. Obviously, there are, some things that we can do around chronic illnesses that we could set goal setting for and such, but there are also a lot of things that we just can't do. So maybe it is like manage my chronic illness as best as I can, given the fact that it's not going anywhere. It's chronic, right? So these are the kind of things that we can start to think about. Chronic pain, all of that kind of thing, it can be very, very difficult to deal with, notably, all right? So as we go through, while we were doing, our kind of like learnings and such like that, we have to acknowledge the fact that those challenges are going to be present for us. So they are going to dictate in some way what we can take on and bring into our system, bring onto our plate and things like that. And it's okay. Like it's all right. It's frustrating, but it's all right. Like everybody is unique, everybody is their own person, and we want to consider like what is reasonable for me in this time, in this season, with my condition, with my situation, all of that kind of stuff. So we're not trying to dwell on the pain points, but we want to acknowledge that they are painful and we would like to possibly do something, if possible, to move away from them. For instance, like dishes in the sink. Maybe I haven't made putting things in the dishwasher as easy as possible for Vogel. Maybe there's a goal that I can set around that, even if a small one. Maybe I could make like a drop zone for dishes that isn't in the sink. So even though it's not necessarily in the dishwasher, at least it's not in my way. All right. So different things that we can think about in terms of that. Okay. When it comes to doing this kind of brainstorm for the new year and for the stuff that we want to get done, there is one question in particular that is my hands down favorite to ask myself, and we're going to do a little bit of thinking around that one now. So, if you enjoy the power of the new year, then we can do it for December 31st. If New Year gives you the heebie-jeebies, you're like, oh, that's too much pressure, then we're just going to say, like, this time next year, what kind of things would you like to be celebrating having done? What kind of things would you like to be celebrating having accomplished, having happened, having not happened, possibly, depending on what it is you're celebrating? But this time next year, or at the end of next year, what is it that you want to be, raising a glass to, saying, heck yeah, I did the thing, that thing happened? This one not only can it be kind of powerful in the sense that you can actually kind of envision or imagine yourself like congratulating yourself about that thing, but it helps us frame it in a more like reasonable kind of time frame. Something that maybe takes some of those ones that we have on here that felt very big, very scary, and think about, okay, well, what's actually going to be reasonable to do in the next year? Okay, so the question that we're going to brainstorm on here, and depending on how much you want to be celebrating, you might want to go to a new page or might just want to tuck it down in the bottom section or whatnot. The question is, at this time next year or at the end of next year, what is it that you want to be celebrating having done? All right. There's also a really good opportunity to like set up a calendar date with your friends and stuff and celebrate this stuff together. This one, I want you to really think about it. So I'm going to give you a little bit more time to do it. We're going to have 5 minutes. At the end of next year or at this time next year, what is it that you want to be celebrating having done? Alrighty, hopefully you have some good things that you want to be celebrating at the end of next year. I know some of you have been sending them through, which is very exciting to read over the stuff that you are excited about possibly celebrating. This doesn't have to be a huge list, right? It's just a really good way to frame your thinking. I find that oftentimes the things feel a lot more tangible if I do it in this way rather than, just kind of fully brain dumping all of the stuff that I want to do, which is also valid and also fine. And there's a reason that we start with it. This just helps us kind of like narrow in on the stuff that's maybe a little bit more reasonable to do within the next year, or it gives us those kind of like you can almost envision it, right? You can almost see yourself standing there at the end of next year, raising a glass of your, I don't know, hard or not so hard cider or whatnot, saying like, yeah, this is the stuff that I got done. And I think that that visualization can be really powerful. I'm not really into the realm of manifestation because I find that sometimes we use manifestation as a way to almost kind of like take away our ownership of our own potential to do things. So like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave that to the universe. It can do it for me. But like, this is the kind of stuff that's like, yeah, I can see myself putting in the work. I can see myself having done that thing, reached that goal, hit that accomplishment, and all of these kind of things. So tiny tink for you, 100%. Tink, all right? Make sure that you're hydrating as you go through because it's important and it's good for you. But let me know, what kind of things are you hoping to be celebrating at the end of next year? Let's see. I want to have a list of therapy accomplishments. Nice. I think that, yeah, keeping a list of those accomplishments is one for me as well. It's like having a backlog of memorable moments for me. So like having kept a record of the fact that I've done these things, right? Like that things have happened. Let's say new job, recent or upcoming move. Nice. Love it. All right. This time next year, have my kitchen and bathroom redone. I saw a couple in the list that were about household projects and getting those things sussed. So that one's very exciting. Let's say here I am talking about a dry year as having a glass of wine. It's cool. This is future you, all right? This is accomplishments for this time next year, all right? We still have time to work on this stuff. Let's say, want to be able to swim 1 kilometer consistently at the lap pool. Nice. I think that would be very, very impressive. So that things that you guys are excited about, I am excited for you. I am excited to come back to this like style of stream next year because we'll probably do one next year and have you tell me like, yeah, I did this thing. I got the first draft of the book done. I got to swim that 1K lap pool kind of whatever it is. All right, I don't swim laps. I can't swim, but you are going to be able to swim it. You're going to be able to do the whole thing. We will raise our glasses. We will tink cheers to each other. Okay, very keen for it. So one of the ways that I like to kind of wrap up my brainstorming section is think about the stuff that I want to keep doing in my life, the stuff that I feel is valuable, the stuff that brings me joy, the stuff that has value, the stuff that I want to stop doing because I feel like it's like a negative habit, it's not taking me where I want to go, it's the stuff that isn't something that I actually want to, do as much as I have been doing, and then anything that I want to start. Any new routines or habits that I want to build, anything that I want to bring more of into my life. As you go through this, it is totally fine if these are repeats because repeats are important, right? Repeats show us that this is probably important and we probably want to do more of that. Yeah, we did one last year. No, we did do one last year, very similar to this. So if you did it last year, go back and have a look at the stuff that you jotted down as goals. See how many of them you actually made some progress on. See which ones that came up again for you because maybe that's something we want to focus more of our attention on and stuff as well. So in terms of this one, what do we want to keep doing? What are the things that are positive? They are joy-filling. They are just like, stuff that we want to continue with in our lives. What's the stuff that we don't really want to do that anymore? We want to stop doing that. We want to possibly kind of like find a new way to approach that, find a different habit to replace that, anything like that, and anything we want to start doing. These could be things that we're curious about. So, for instance, I'm kind of curious about meditation. I have dabbled with it previously, found it quite difficult, but maybe I want to have like a conscious effort to actually try and bring that into my routine because I know that a lot of people get a lot of value out of it. Sure, it might not be for me, but I want to give it a go. So what are the kind of things that you want to start doing, whether that's just a curiosity point or something that you genuinely know is going to have a good impact, you just haven't started doing it just yet? Right? There's one because we have 3 separate lists. We're going to spend 5 minutes. Make sure that you work on all of them. You don't have to work on one and then another, right? You can jump around. I often jump around because I find that that's just the way my brain works. Like we said, if you're still having thoughts about stuff to add to your brainstorm, go back and fill them in. It's cool. It's still there. We've got plenty of space. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you've got like no space. All goods. Chuck a sticky note on it. Put some more things down on that list. So 5 minutes. What are you gonna keep doing or you want to do more of? What are you going to stop doing? We're going to try and avoid that and do something else. And what are you going to start doing in the new year? Or at least what are you hoping to? Alrighty. Hopefully you've got a decent list, or technically 3 lists of the things that you want to keep, start, and stop doing. I find that oftentimes, uh, the stop doings and the start doings are like the reverse of each other, and that's totally fine. I note that, at least one person have said like, "Oh, is it just me or do the same things keep coming up on the lists as well?" That is all good, alright? Like we said, there is power in this repetition because it just highlights to us that this is an important area. This is something that you probably want to focus on in the next year. That being said, it is also okay if there are things that have just been one offs on any of our lists, ones that only came up in a particular section or anything like that. That doesn't mean that they're not necessarily important to us. They're not necessarily the things we want to work on or anything like that. But it could just be that based on the questions that we're asking ourselves, they only really suited themselves or came to mind in one particular section. Okay. But these lists, like it said in the little scroll bar, if you got to the end of it, have a look back. Have a look at what you've written down here because this is big work, all right? This can take a lot of mental energy and it can really take a lot of kind of like deep diving, soul searching and stuff to get these things out of our head and onto paper. And sometimes it can make us a little bit emotional, and that's cool too. You're allowed to have emotions. You're not a robot unless you are a robot. I apologize to any of the robots listening. But as we go through and we note these things down in any of the areas, anything that's come up repeatedly, that's probably something that you want to focus on for next year. Okay, because our next step is to find the themes, find the things that were repeated. I personally like to like take a colored pen and go through and literally highlight them, either highlight the little dot marker. So, like for instance, like we'd say, here we go, letting work pull focus. So anything related to work is now going to be in this purple color. My work is not purple, my work is blue. Let me know what color you usually use for work. But anytime a goal related to work or setting better boundaries with work or not letting my work pull my focus, I can go and highlight those, see how many times it came up. Because any of those times that it came up, it's kind of like a little reminder saying, like, hey, Jess, this thing right here, we should probably set a goal around that. Okay. As you go through and you pull them out, it might have to have a little bit of kind of like abstract thinking around it. So, for instance, one of the ones that I've noticed previously, it was around stress management. And the way that I would word it in the different sections would change a little bit, but it came back to that overall idea of like, you need to find better ways to manage your stress because overeating or defaulting to takeout or anything like that, all of these are kind of like symptoms of having a stressful work environment. This is in particular when I was doing both YouTube and teaching. For those of you who are kind of new, I used to be a full-time teacher. I recently, within the last 2 years, left to do content creating full-time. But when I was a teacher, because I had the teacher workload and I also had the workload of doing all of my YouTubing stuff, it meant that I wasn't making great choices in other areas of my life. That was kind of like symptoms of other things that were kind of like, just causing me stress. So going through our lists, thinking about what are those commonalities? What is the stuff that came up time and time again? And once we have those, once we've figured out what those commonalities are, what kind of a goal could we set for that? Like, what could I work on that would cause this to be better? Or it would take me in that direction that I wanted to go. Doesn't need to be a negative thing, all right? So, like, another thing that kind of came up time and time again for me, if we get out another color, could be something like social time. So like passions. I enjoy spending time with my friends. I enjoy getting to have, chill time with them. But in particular, one that came up was this idea of novel social time. So things that feel more elevated, things that feel more special than just a regular kind of hangout. Maybe that's something that I want to do, like having a backlog of memorable moments and events. That is something that is common to this goal that I have for myself, that idea of novelty in the hangouts that we're doing, making it feel a little bit more special, a little bit more elevated than the usual. Okay, so that is going to be your homework. Your homework is going to be going through, pulling out those commonalities, those themes that are common between each of the different sections we've filled in. You could also go back to the reflection that we did because some of them might be in there as well. And anything that is repeated, anything that you see a lot of, that's probably a goal to set for yourself. Once you've actually got them, then you have to set the goals. You have to pick which ones you're going to actually work on in the next quarter or the next year, and you're going to have to plan them out so that they can actually get achieved. When it comes to doing that process, when it comes to taking the goals that we've found through this brainstorming process and actually figuring out how it is to work on them, that is something I would love to help you with. That is something that I would very much be inclined to help you with. And if you haven't heard of Epic Goals, that is our goal setting course, right? It takes you through a lot of what we've done here together, but also adds on How do I select them? Which ones do I actually pick? Like the ones that are going to get accomplished, which ones am I actually going to use? We talk about, once we've got those goals picked, how do I now actually plan them out? How do I make an action plan that means that goal is not just a goal? By the end of next year, I will actually know how to do it. We talk about, for instance, how to make a progress map of that, how to like backwards plan a goal and all of that kind of thing, and how to set yourself a timeline so that you stay on top of doing all of that stuff. I know that we do have some people who are here who have done epic goals before. Make sure that you go back and watch those videos again so that you can do it for the next year and all of that kind of thing. But if you want to be part of Epic Goals, or if you just want to find out more information, it is linked in the description box below. I would love to be part of your goal setting journey for next year. Let me do that. Let me help you. Before we wrap up though, do you have any questions? Whether it be about this process, about Epic Goals, about anything else, because I would love to answer any questions you have. I'm so excited for next year. I'm so excited for everything that you are going to work on and all of the progress you are going to make. I am excited for us coming back together next year, like this time next year when we do this stream again, because we're going to do one next year. It's going to happen. And we can celebrate the stuff that we put down on our lists and saying like, yeah, I wanted to build more of this into my life. I wanted to get to the end of next year and be celebrating X, Y, Z. I want to be there and celebrate with you, and we can pour one out, whether it's hard or just a cheeky cola tink, and say, yeah, we got that stuff done. Let's see, what do you guys reckon? Well, is there anything else that you want to know? Let's see, what happened to your polar bear finger cap? Now it's not making a cameo in the videos. Well, if you don't know, I accidentally lost an argument with a knife and managed to cut off the top of my finger here just a little bit. But thankfully it healed very, very quickly, so it's all good. It's not too bad. How do we find the Epic Goals course? You can find the information about it. It is the only link in the description box that'll take you to the summary page about like how that kind of works and such. And if you did want to go through to that, there's a link there that takes you to the page where it actually like is housed, I suppose. What Enneagram are you? That is a great question. I've never done an Enneagram test because I can't find a free one online. If you have a free one online, send it through the Discord or something so I can actually do it. Please like this video, of course. If you found this valuable, if you thought that this process was good and you feel like you have a bit more clarity on what it is you might want to accomplish next year, yeah, sure, give the video a like. If you didn't like it, I mean, you could also just like it because you appreciated hanging out with us. That's also cool too. Let's see, what are your development plans for your channel and for your business? That is a big question. I'm just hoping at this stage to get myself an editor because like, as much as I love editing, I really, really don't, and it takes up a lot of my time. So that's like my first big one. I would really much just like to get an editor for my videos because I feel like that would be really, really beneficial. But let's see. Are we doing something on Epic or waiting until January for the monthly goals? I feel like we should do something before the new year, right? Like for those of you who are in Epic, we have the actual course and then we have the club, which has like weekly or like 3 times a month meetings to do goal setting work together and get stuff done. We do, of course, have work along day tomorrow. So make sure that you come along to work along day. We're going to go get some stuff done together, which will be good. We will have our mid-month check-in next week, but I feel like we're going to need to have like a before the new year starts type thing. So we're going to have to chuck something up for that as well. That'll be fun. Thank you for the workshop. You are so very welcome. As said, I love goals. I love goal setting. I want to help people. And this is the kind of thing that, we can do here on the internet together and kind of like crowdsource ideas and stuff like that and make sure that we all kind of have a good basis for what it is we want to work on next year. Because oftentimes if you just go into a goal setting with like, okay, what do you want to work on? If that's like the only question you ask yourself, you're like, cool, like maybe this 1 or 2 things or something, or the things that immediately come to mind. But doing that little bit of increased kind of soul searching, I find just means that you're going to get better quality goals and you're going to work on stuff that actually makes an impact in your life. And that's what I want you guys to do for yourselves, right? I want you to be working on things that actually move the needle, take you where you want to go so that we can get to the end of next year or the end of our life or like whatever and look back on it and be like, yeah, I did the thing. I'm a wizard, or like whatever term you use to, denote how awesome you are. For me, it's being a wizard, but let's see. So, thank you, AJ. You're such a sweetie. Look at that little green message pop up. We love that. But as said, I would love to help you out. I would love to be the kind of person who helps guide you on your goal journey, because the setting of the goal is just the first part of the process, okay? Once we've got that goal, once we've decided what it is we want to work on, we do need to map it out. We need to make sure that we know what steps we need to take in order to do the thing. I want to help you do that. So come join us over at Epic Goals. I would love to have you there with us. I want to support you through this. I want to make sure that you actually get the stuff done that you want to accomplish, especially if you're the kind of person who writes down the same goal every single year and it doesn't actually happen. All right? No shame, no judgment. It happens to the best of us. I get it. This is going to be your year. 2025 is going to be your year. You're going to get this done. All right? We're going to do it together. So, oh, look at you go, Michelle. What a sweetheart. Gifted a JashiiCorrin membership. Oh, thank you. Welcome to the team with a capital T. Let's see. Is there a YouTube subscription, Patreon? We do have a YouTube subscription. It's not for Epic Goals. It's more just for our channel memberships. You can find that at the join button that's next to like the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Hopefully that helps. I do know that the membership for YouTube is not necessarily available in every single country, but hopefully you can find that one. Is Epic different from the YouTube membership? Yes, Epic is different. Epic itself is a course. So it is kind of like designed to really bite-size, take you step by step through the goal setting process, rather than our membership, which is more like a monthly thing where you get to have like extra videos on the channel. You get to join our like exclusive live streams. If you're in tier 3, you get early access to all of our videos, that kind of a thing. Whereas Epic is more about, very specifically targeted towards getting you working on your goals in a way that actually gets accomplished. Yeah. So that is a separate thing. Let's see. I'm so glad that you found it helpful. Your little green message just like lifts my heart up with joy. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for coming along, and thank you for getting involved. And if you were one of the people who just used this live stream to get other stuff done and just, do your laundry or whatever, it's cool. I hope you got your laundry done. I hope everything's folded, looking crisp, clean, and put away. I love that. Mine's sitting on the floor in a bucket right now. Probably should put that on my goals list, like more timely executing of actually putting my laundry away on laundry day. It's not going to happen. Not going to set it as a goal. I'm not going to set myself up for that kind of failure. Also, it's just like, it's not a passion point. It sits in the bucket. It's not in the way. I'm okay with it. It's all right if some of your goals are not aligned with things that other people commonly feel are like, what succeeding at life looks like. It's all good. You are your own person. Do your own thing. Mr. Such a Sweetheart gifted 5 JashiiCorrin memberships. Heck to the yes. I can't see who and or if anybody received those because it doesn't show me on my end, but I'm excited to have more people as part of the team with a capital T. Let's see. Got your Christmas travel plan sorted? I'm all about it. Yes, glad to be part of that process, even if it wasn't necessarily specifically what we were working on. But let's see. Thanks. Thank you for being here, Sarah. It's always such a pleasure. I love it when you can join. I always try and make sure I come and join in on yours because it's just a good time. Sarah's got a great voice for body doubling. 100%. Stand by it. So anytime that she has a live stream, I'm just like, heck to the yeah, I'm going to show up for that. I'm going to get my stuff done and listen to her talk about whatever it is her and her people are talking about. But let's see. So, how did you know? It's because I'm a wizard. Let's see. So, alrighty, gorgeous humans. Have a fabulous rest of your day. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. Bye for now.